Welcome to the Prophecy Club. As you know, we've been talking about getting someone on to talk about medical, and I've got someone to talk about medical today. His name is Bob Turnbough. He's been in the medical, helping people business, I guess you'd call it, for 5 years. SWAT operator. He works with human trafficking, former police officer. Bob Turnbough, welcome to the Prophecy Club.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, Stan. And so with that, quick little background about me and about my credentials. I'm currently a first responder, stop the bleed instructor through the American College of Surgeons. I teach TCCC and then TECC. So this is tactical combat casualty care, as well as tactical emergency casualty care. So I work with everything from your everyday civilians, how to respond to a car accident, to your law enforcement officers, how to go into an active shooting or a mass casualty event, an MCI as you would, and how to respond to that in the safest manner possible and maximize our life-saving capabilities inside of an emergent situation. And so I work with thousands of people throughout the year. I'm our chief training officer, as well as our strategic partner liaison for Refuge Medical. Refuge Medical is an American-focused, American-built first aid kit company. And so something that we do, it's a little bit different than a lot of organizations currently around, is we focus on sourcing, building, and supporting American manufacturing for first aid kits. So we don't give our money to big CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. We don't give our money to Pakistan or to Indonesia or any of these other places that are supporting slave labor or that are actively persecuting Christians and believers. We keep our money here. The mission statement for the company is very simple and it's very direct. And so our mission statement is to save lives while in service to the Father's kingdom, experiencing the abundance of his provision and blessing. And so we've had the amazing blessing thus far to save well over 100 lives, as well as have thousands of aids rendered using our gear. We work alongside special operations to develop our gear. So this is people from Naval Special Warfare, your Navy SEALs. This is people from, Army Special Operations or JSOC, which is, your Army Green Berets, as well as we work with countless SWAT teams, law enforcement teams, paramedics, firefighters to develop the best first aid kits possible for you, the everyday citizen, the everyday civilian that's going out, hopping into a car that might experience a car accident, that might experience even just a fall, a break, a sprain, or anything like that. We really want to give you guys more capability every single day to responding to an emergency situation. I'm really grateful to be on the show today. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, you just convinced me I want you as my next door neighbor.
Yeah. I actually don't like to have next door neighbors. I like to live out in the middle of nowhere. As Messiah often went to his solitude, his solitude place. Like, he would leave the disciples quite often. My wife and I, we tried to do that. So we live out in the country. We raise some sheep, we raise cows, we raise chickens and turkeys, and try to live a more simpler life. I grew up inside of the city of Chicago. And so I got to see how busy and how crazy people can be. And so with that, we moved out to middle of nowhere, Oklahoma. My town doesn't even have a stoplight, and we get to live a little bit slower and with a lot more peace through our day to day.
I hear you. Okay. So as I was telling you before we get started, the thought occurred to me, I probably need to take 60 seconds and explain why we're talking. And this all started in 1998 when we had Stanislav Lunev come in to speak at Prophecy Club. He was the highest ranking Russian military officer ever to defect to America. Yep. While he was still in Russia, he was sent out as part of a team to find places to hide part of the 250 lost in Russia suitcase nukes. He said that he believed that there was about 50 back in the 80s that had been smuggled into America. Since then, we now have 37 different people that have dreams, visions, angel visits, audible voices saying that suitcase nukes are coming. And based upon a couple, it could be very soon. 3 things that we were told to watch for is that when there's a change on our money, which has not happened yet, when there's celebration in the streets, because Trump is back in charge, which has not happened yet. Trump is back in charge, but we've not seen celebration in the streets yet. When that happens, then a suitcase nuke went off. Now, what I hope is there's months or years between each one of these events, but the point is, we can't count on that. What we can count on is we better be ready. Matter of fact, I just read, since I've got this, let me just pull it up. Let me just pull it up. Let me just show you something that I just saw this morning. Since we're about to go to where we can show you the internet, let me just show you something. This is Hal Turner this morning setting up a crash. Federal Reserve pulls more than half of the credit available through bank term funding. Okay, what does that mean? It means that we're about to see and experience a crash like in 1929. So we know that the finances are about to change.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. So we have to assume the worst. And for this program, let's just assume. I don't know when it's coming. I want to make that clear.
Right.
Let's assume, though, that sometime between now and February, that we do get hit with anywhere from 20 to 35 suitcase nukes all across America going off at the same instant. Let's assume the worst. Now, what happened is this past Saturday, I woke up out of a dream where I'd been asking the Lord to show me about suitcase nukes. And I woke up hearing two words, medical, medical. And they were screaming at me like a trumpet. Now, Leslie, waking up beside me at the same time, didn't hear anything. So it wasn't this ear, it was in my spirit.
Right.
Medical, medical. And I believe that reason he was saying that is because not only me, but all of the people that follow this ministry, we need to get prepared medical. Two things. Yeah. We need to get prepared. A suitcase nuke go off near us, and praise God, hopefully it's 2 or 3 hours away, but it might be 20 or 30 minutes away. It might be closer than that. But if it does, we might be put in a situation where we have to treat burns and radiation victims. So with that, let me jump over to your website. Okay, we're looking at your website. So tell us where to go and what to do.
Awesome. So before we hop too deep into the website, I just want to say that 2 Timothy 1:7, we should all cling to the word right now. It says that the Spirit of Elohim gave us not one of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind, right? So all of this is not to be fixating on fear. That's a trick of the enemy, but rather as believers, just as the wisdom in Proverbs says, the wise man seeth evil and hideth himself. And so we should be doing the same thing. We should be building a plan of preparation and be ready to be a force for good in this world. We are to be a light as believers in the Most High. And so with that, sometime I always refer back to Christ because he was like the ultimate medic. He was constantly healing people. You know, the first Stop the Bleed program ever was when the woman who bled for 12 years grabbed his tassels, right? And so what a beautiful thing. And so we should, as we try to aspire to be like Christ, want to heal others, want to bring healing, bring comfort, and bring peace. And so that's why I love medical so much, is because our Lord loves medical so much. And so with that, when you go to the website, you can go to the first aid kits and you can go to buckets, right? So we built this kit not too long ago. And the reason we chose buckets is we had a lot of people that were into preparedness that stored food inside of buckets. Let's do view all IFACs then.
What's an IFAC?
An IFAC, that stands for individual first aid kit. Most people inside of the space just call it a first aid kit. So you can scroll down a little bit.
Okay, scroll down.
So you can see right there, we have a couple of buckets. So one on the screen to the left is the wound care bucket. That's an awesome tool. So the wound care bucket was designed around, you could put this inside your home, you could store it, and you could treat a major injury for 30 days outside of that bucket, or you could treat multiple injuries for a shorter period of time, depending on the severity of the injury. So a lot of people like to focus on trauma medicine when it comes to preparedness. You know, oh, I might need a tourniquet, or oh, I might need to do surgery and all this stuff. But in post care and prolonged field care and in post casualty care, We need to really focus on keeping wounds clean, on keeping dressings changed, and on constantly maintaining a sterile environment for that. And so that's the reason we developed the wound care bucket. We tried to make it very affordable. We've had multiple accountants actually like on YouTube break down the cost of the bucket versus building it yourself. And then, how much gear comes in it. We stuff that bucket full. And it comes with your gloves and your gauzes and your antiseptics and your creams and your ointments and your sterile pads and all these different things packed inside that bucket. So that way you can store it in a safe place next to your food storage, or you can store it, by your generator or whatever you have, and you can keep it there. It's not going to get any moisture in it to ruin the gauze. It's not going to be, succumb to any temperature differences or anything like that. It's in a safe container, and it's also buoyant. So if there was flooding or anything like that, it'll actually float. We had a wonderful instance. Well, I guess not wonderful for him, but we did have a really cool instance where somebody kept this in their storm cellar, and the storm cellar had flooded. And so all of his buckets were floating in the storm cellar. So it's like, oh man, that's a pretty cool like little selling point there. So the wound care bucket is chocked full of different goods that inside of an emergent situation, if you weren't able to get to a hospital, if you weren't able to get to a doctor, you could use a couple of these buckets to set up sort of a treatment center for people who have been injured, whether that's a laceration or whether that's a burn or something in that regard.
Let me jump in here. Let's confirm a couple of things. Okay, so this is the bucket.
Yep.
Are the gauze pads and things like that on the inside. These are the other things. So what's in the bucket are these three things. And then this line over here, they can add these items to the bucket. Is that what it's saying?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can add additional burn dressings. You can add a surgical kit. You can add like a super easy bucket opener because it does have a seal on the bucket when we ship it to you.
Hey, you want one of these?
Yeah, you want an opener for sure.
Bucket open.
Yeah, you can use a hammer, the pry section of a hammer, but it's easier to just grab a bucket opener. I personally have one.
Another thing I wanted to say, I looked down here because this is a major thing, and I see these videos. I assume these videos are going to be telling us how to treat a person, how to use what's in the bucket, correct?
Yep. Yeah. So there's videos on, there's a couple of review videos, and then there's also videos on how to use the gear itself, right? And all those videos, we don't pay for people to review our gear. We don't believe in that. What we'll do is we try to handle it the same way when we review gear. If you want to send us something, that's totally up to you. However, we're going to give you our honest opinion. So you can't buy our opinion, and we don't try to buy anybody else's opinion. That's very big to us because we see so often in the industry, people are trying to purchase good reviews, which then skews the actual honest truth of the product. We don't do that. We don't believe in that. A workman is worth their hire biblically. And so if our product is good, it'll speak for itself.
Okay. So you're saying in terms of burns or anything, this is the basic bucket to start with.
And then we actually just, if you go back one page to the first aid kits, so we have these bucket bundles, right? So those bucket bundles come with, 2 wound care buckets and a surgical bucket. So that surgical bucket then gives you the capability to do small scale surgery or large scale surgery if you had the proper people to perform those tasks. So that's your sutures and your steri.
I'm gonna get that right there.
Yeah. And it comes with 2 wound care buckets to handle all the dressings. It comes with surgical drapes. It comes with sterilizing equipment, your surgical tools, whether that be your curved Kellys, your straight Kellys, all this different gear, as well as it comes with like a military surgical kit that you can carry with you if you just had to, do a quick suture, do a quick couple surgical knots on a laceration, because you didn't have the ability to go to the hospital. You didn't have the ability to go to the doctor. You were, for lack of a better term, bugged in, right? And then we just launched this product here. I do want to show the audience. This is called a burn bucket. And so if you go to the search tab, and we just launched this last week. Yeah. So if you just search burn bucket, this is a great tool right here. This is a half 5-gallon bucket. And inside of this half 5-gallon bucket, we have everything you need to deal with major burns outside of fluids. And so, depending on the situation and how critical the burn is, you might need to, do give the patient some fluids. I can't tell you exactly how to do that, obviously, because of the legality behind it. But I will tell you that there are different ways on the internet to get fluids. Most of the time you buy fluids as you would for a canine. And it's the same saline, it's the same potassium, it's usually the same stuff. So inside of this burn bucket, we have a plethora of different goods. The first thing being a lot of dry, sterile dressings. If we still have the ability to get to a burn unit, we want to try to use those dry, sterile dressings, right? So that's going to be your flat gauze pads, your gauze rolls, your adhering gauze squares. All these different things are going to be really big. But we also included some different stuff. So some saline flushes. And these are used to debride the wound. So if there's little particles of dirt or there's little particles of nastiness or any dead skin, you can actually flush the wound out with these saline flushes to get that debris out. And cause a little bit of a cooling sensation for the patient. You have your tapes. You also have allocaine. So this is a lidocaine and aloe vera mixture, which is a really awesome tool for your minor burns. So this is going to be really soothing to the patient as well as it helps healing. And then we have our burn dressings. So these burn dressings, they come in large packages. I have a couple of each one here to talk about with you guys, and I'll explain them for you. So there's different types of burn dressings, and each one handles the burn a different way. I'll first start with my favorite. This is a Zeroform petrolatum gauze. And this is a gauze that is medicated, that when you put it onto the burn, it actually immediately creates a soothing sensation for the patient. So they're no longer in such agonizing pain, and they're not struggling with the injury itself. It also acts almost as if it's dry. So it's a lot easier to breathe inside of a hospital setting, right? So these are great. Paramedics often describe these as the kiss of an angel. So it's a very good product, and it's very affordable. Now, if you had to wait a little bit longer to go to a critical care unit, or maybe you didn't have access to it, that's where these tactical burn dressings and these large water gel dressings really start to shine. So inside of these, you have not just a little bit of water itself, because water is going to be such a big part inside of this, but you also have essential oils, and you have formed gauze that can conform to the wound itself to allow for healing to start. Now, you would have to change these out, and so that's why we included so many different dressings. But these dressings go a really long way when caring for somebody that has had a critical burn. So pairing the burn bucket with a wound care bucket and a surgical bucket, that's going to allow you to be much more prepared in the case of an emergency. And it comes in different sizes too. So, this one right here is a 4-inch by 16-inch dressing. So this can cover a lot more of the body. They also have 4-inch by 4-inch sections. And then if you want to go smaller, obviously you can just cut the dressing itself and conform it to the wound and the size.
I got a question.
What you got?
Okay, so I'm asking myself, so what's the advantage of getting these from you as opposed to going to Walmart or something and picking them off the shelf? My question is, I don't know what to get at Walmart or something like that, whereas the things you're putting in the bucket are what experienced healthcare givers have chosen for these type situations. Secondly, in that we're getting them in bulk, are we also getting a better price than we would typically get at the store?
Yeah, so there's usually 3 points that I like to make to people as to why to buy a bucket from us versus, trying to piecemeal it together. So the first one is time and efficiency, right? We have the knowledge, we have the skill set, and we have the subject matter expertise to where these are the components that we believe fervently should be in the first aid kit to where you're not going to miss something, right? So you don't have to do all that research. You don't have to go into depth into studying, okay, what cream is better and what dressing is better and how's it going to work? We've actually sat down and studied not just the homeopathic and holistic side, so the more natural medicine, but also the Western medicine aspect of, what is going to cause the most comfort as well as the most success in the treatment of the symptoms inside of that moment. So there's that aspect. The second aspect is It is priced pretty dang competitively, but we're not China. So we're not Walmart. We're not going to pull stuff from China, from Chinese manufacturing, where it supports slave labor and slave trade, and the persecution of Christians, right? And so we are building all of this stuff and assembling all this stuff here. We're giving Americans jobs and careers, right? Not just, a $10 an hour job, but we're paying people double the minimum wage to put this stuff in buckets to make sure that individuals have American supported manufacturing and assembly here. And then the third thing is that we constantly are updating the components, and we're constantly updating our prices to be the most competitive. So we are studying the white page data, the data from the American College of Surgeons, from the Committee on TCCC, to see what is working inside of the battlefield as well as inside of the hospital right now. What is the data suggesting, and what way should we move our products to make sure that it's the most up to date, it's the most successful in treatment? So that way we're giving the best advice possible to our consumers to ensure that you guys have, the most fluid information. Medicine is constantly changing. Medicine is constantly evolving because we're always learning. And it shouldn't be stagnant. 50 years ago, we told people not to put a tourniquet on because they would lose a limb. Well, now we know that if a tourniquet's the proper diameter, that we won't lose a limb, and it'll save a lot of lives. And so that's just one example in a million different cases of how medicine is constantly evolving. And so we do that stewardship for you. So that way you guys can trust us, you can know us, you can like us, as well as we have an obligation not just to you, but to Christ himself, because we do all work as we would unto the master. And so when we work, we're not just working for you, we're trying to work for the Messiah who came for us.
Okay, let's explain some. Can you see what I'm looking at here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all right. Is there anything else we need to point out on this page, or is there something else on the website you want me to point out thinking about Suitcase Nukes?
So yeah, absolutely. I would, if you could go back to the first page. So if you see in the top left corner, there's a first aid kit called the Bear Fac. It's that red one right there in the corner.
Right here. Okay.
Yes. So the Bear Fac, I have a green one right here. This is our flagship product. This is kind of what got the company started. And we've had these kits used by everything from pararescuemen, so that's the medics that go and save special forces, to naval special warfare, to Green Berets, to soccer moms, you name it. They've used these kits right here. And the reason this is so successful is this is a fully built out trauma first aid kit that can save lives and has saved lives, that people can super easily carry. You can put it on the headrest of your car right through here. You can store it in a bag. You can put it on the outside of a bag. And we've had a lot of lives saved by just using this first aid kit. I'll show you right here how it works. So you open it up in the top, and this is all made here, right? So we sew all these products right here. So you pull this out like so. And notice that you can open it with one hand, just like that. And you have massive bleeding control right here. So you have your tourniquet, you have your emergency trauma dressing and wound packing gauze, as well as you have trauma support right down here. So this is additional gauzes, eye shields, eye pads, cleaning tools, all that different stuff. And then in the back here, we also have what we call the stack.
Clotting stuff, blood clotting.
Yes. Yeah. So it has a hemostatic agent. So that's your quick clot. You can add that in and check out too. If you want to add additional quick clot, that's no problem. So that way you have the ability to quickly form a clot inside of a junctional space. So your shoulders, your pelvic girdle, neck, stuff like that. So back here, you can see you have trauma shears, which are very important. A couple of gauze pads. You have a patent airway. So this is a nasopharyngeal airway. We call it a nose noodle. This gives you the ability to establish an airway in a patient that might go unconscious. You actually have a burn dressing right there, as well as chest seals if you were to take a puncture to your pleural space. So you have this big vacuum right here that exists. So if somebody were to get stabbed, or somebody were to get shot, or just punctured by a piece of flying debris, this could seal
them up. When you hold them up, don't shake them. Don't shake them. Just hold them still. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so you would be able to properly seal a punctured space just like so. It's kind of like a big vented sticker, if you would. And I can show you quite quickly what that would look like. So here I have a simulated wound right here. And on the backside, this is also a simulated wound. It's a simulated gunshot. And then right here is a big chest seal. So it's a big sticker that you put over the wound, just like so. It's very, very sticky, right? And it allows for the wound to be properly sealed once you put it back over. So that way the vacuum can be restored so you can breathe properly, so that your lungs can function properly. Your diaphragm can pull your lungs down, be filled with air to continue to oxygenate the blood. So that way you don't die, in lack of a better term. You know, the body does a really good job every single day of the diaphragm just pulling those lungs up and down, inflating, deflating, inflating, deflating. And we don't think about it. But the second that you puncture that space, the vacuum has become compromised. And so we got to seal that really quickly.
Okay,
so
someplace in here, I need to say that we have negotiated a 5% discount with them if you use the promo code prophecy. Code prophecy. You go to refugemedical.com. Refugemedical.com. We'll arrange to get these things up on the screen so you can see them. Refugemedical.com, promo code prophecy. Okay. Is there anything else that we need to talk about in terms of emergencies here?
Yeah. So you did mention, the fear of nuclear fallout, right? So these suitcase nukes,
radiation.
Yeah, radiation, right? So if you go to individual supplies, so right there in the top left corner, you have potassium iodide. So potassium iodide or potassium iodide, depending on which one. I think currently we're carrying potassium iodide because it keeps a little bit longer. This is an anti-radiation tablet. And how this works is you take it, every 24 hours for your average adult. And what the dosage does is it gives your thyroid the capability to process anything that's been contaminated with radiation. So if you were to come across water or food, or even air itself sometimes, that has been contaminated with radiation, this protects you from that. Now, this isn't a solve all, this isn't an end all be all, but it's a great ounce of prevention that can be worth pounds of cure. And so my wife and I, we have these inside of our preparations, this potassium iodide, and we also carry potassium iodate, which keeps a little bit less long. But this is a great little medication. Well, it's not really a medication, it's a supplement that you can keep on hand to treat yourself and your family in case of radiation exposure or concern of potential radiation exposure. So I would recommend that, you get a couple of those for your family, for yourself. I don't know about efficacy in animals, so I'm not going to speak to that, but it's a really good utensil, right? It's a great tool. And you can see, obviously, in the medical components as you scroll, we have a vast variety of different things to help in different emergency situations, whether that's an AED or child application tourniquets or junctional tourniquets or additional wound packing gauzes, to basic vitals sets, to tracking vitals management, to airways, to even just getting a splinter out of your hand. What we try to do is give you, the end user, the tools to be your own first responder. Something we've seen since 2020 is a large decrease in the response time from your average emergency medical responder. And so where we were at inside of majority of cities under 5 minutes, we're now at the 15 to 17 minute mark. Well, that can be extremely problematic if somebody's not breathing or if somebody's having a critical blood loss incident. And what we want to do is give the power to the people, give the power to the average American citizen to respond. We believe that the average American citizen should be a prepared individual, willing and ready to respond to anything. That ethos is what has built an amazing country to begin with. And so having some of this gear, just like you see right here, on hand really does save lives. We've seen it from car accidents to shootings to stabbings, you name it. We've seen it applied. And then we've also seen it used inside of the military and inside of law enforcement as well to save lives every single day. And you mentioned the Prophecy Club discount. I think that's a great advantage. I wish that we could give 50% off to people, but because we don't sell Chinese crap, because we don't support foreign manufacturing, we don't have these super large margins margins that a lot of other companies have. What we do have is these small margins that give you the ability to give a discount and then give, our people the ability to earn a living wage in this current economy, in whoever's actually running the country 2024, if it's Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or the deep state or whoever, right? But in this economy, we're still trying to give people the ability to buy homes, to buy land, to support themselves, to get out of debt so that they're not slaves to the system, and to build a even better fellowship and community here locally. And so that's really why we don't give those big discounts.
Thank you for being on, my brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I greatly appreciate it. I pray that the Most High Yeshua Messiah, Jesus the Christ, would bless all of your listeners. I pray that they never have to use any of this stuff. I really do. I pray that they would not be in fear, that they would operate out of positions of strength, as so many children of the Most High have done already, whether it's Samson or Gideon or David, or Peter or Paul. Know that it is an honor to walk with the Most High God and to be in his will, and that he did not make us to be afraid or to cower or to run away, but rather to endure. You see it in Revelation. You see it all throughout the New Testament and the epistles. Endurance. Just like James says, count it all joy, my brothers and sisters, when you fall into various trials and testing, knowing that the proving of your belief worketh endurance.
You got a scripture memorized there. Good for you. Good for you.
Brother, there is nothing I love more than our Most High Messiah. He has saved my life. He has saved my wife's life. He saved my children. He laid down his life for me, which is crazy, and died on a stake. And so if I could just encourage all of you to get closer to the Lord, cling to the sword of the Spirit right now, knowing that it's going to get worse. Read the book, guys. It's absolutely going to get worse. If you read that last book in Revelation, it doesn't get super cool. It gets really, really challenging. And the Lord always carries a remnant through that, always. And so cling to him, be the remnant, be the light, and operate from positions of strength.
Amen. Appreciate having you on. I'll have to have you back again.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Absolutely. It was an honor.
Okay, so as you can see, use the promo code PROPHECY. Promo code PROPHECY gets you a 5% discount, and the the website is refugemedical.com, refugemedical.com. Now, you may be saying, how'd you come across this? Well, actually, you sent me. When I mentioned we needed someone to help us with medical, I started getting all kinds of emails, and almost every one of the emails that you sent me was sending me to this place. So you sent me here, and I checked it out, and I think they're a great group of people, as you can tell. And I think that what the Lord was saying was, when he said medical, is your people are prepared for a lot of things, but the thing that they are not prepared for, that they need to be prepared for, is in the field of medical. So I can tell you right now, as soon as I get off here, I'm going to place an order for several of these things. I'm really lacking, which is why you told me to do so. I'm really lacking. God bless you. Thank you for tuning in to Prophecy Club.